All right, so it's a new day. New day. I'm looking up into the big timber behind the camera. And right behind me is that one of those two hills, either the taller peak, that one, or this one right here, is where Ruby the dog and I heard that howl right there. We're coming up from the river, and then she went crazy straight down below me, looking up into the trees, going vicious. It's really weird, because we've hiked this river now probably 15 times with her and never had a problem. But anyway, so I got up, I sprayed my hull off of my boat, the guide boat, and then what? I woke up, I stayed overnight, saw some friends, slept in the boat, my sleeping bag, and then I got up at 4:30 this morning. I drove out here to try to see if I might catch a steelhead, and I fought two, and I caught one. I caught the oldest steelhead I've ever seen in my life. This poor old thing. Poor old boy. Who knows how many times he spawned. I'm just kind of funny. I'm standing there, and I was just giving up. I shut this camera off. I always try to videotape catching a steelhead. And I had a GoPro right here and that camera on. And I shut them both off. And then right in front of me, 15 feet in front of me, this great big steelhead, I saw a flash. I looked down. Then I saw a flash a little farther upriver, and then another flash, and then boom, he comes out of the water. Would have caught it perfectly on this camera. And I can count on one hand how many times I've seen a steelhead jump out of the water for the hell of it. And if he didn't jump again, like, what? And I already fished the hell out of that pool. So I turned the cameras on again, and I got my rod. I didn't even think to situate this one a little better. And I caught him. Exact same fish. Easy to recognize. Anyway, we'll see if I can manage a few emails right now. These mosquitoes are out heavy, and of course I don't have any mosquito repellent. Oh well, give me a second here. What is it? It's Saturday. I think tomorrow, no, day after tomorrow, we're going to go up to Squamish. And in the next couple days, we're going to go up and get that, recreate that photograph that man took. Have a snoop around, because I can, and it's interesting to me. Oh, where are we? Long list. I know there's a bunch of unread ones in here. The exposure's on auto on this camera. I hate that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to change this new camera. I'm getting used to it. Now listen to this. There's no title in this email. Hello, my name is Deborah. I live in northwest Pennsylvania, a tiny town 25 miles south of Erie. I started out being scared out of my wits as a kid. I was about 8 or 9 when my mom and I were in the kitchen, and bad skunk. You could smell through the open window. I grabbed my mom and stood behind her dress, screaming, "What is that?" It was looking in the window. It almost looked like Andre the Giant with hair around his face. I was terrified. She pushed me in the other room calmly and said, "Oh, that's just your Uncle Dave with a mask on, don't worry." She went back to the kitchen and closed the window and pulled the curtain. That was the first time. I'm still terrified today. I see them a lot here. It's really strange. About 3 weeks ago, I was out feeding my friend's horses some apples. I've done this for years. And as soon as they see me, they run to the road. That day, they did not. The brown horse, Trick, picked her head up and looked across the street. Very strange. Then Cole, the other horse, picked up its head. They both made strange noises, looked at me, and ran for the barn on the other side of the field, not slowing down at all. I turned and did not see anything, so I took 6 pictures quickly in that direction they were looking in, and this is what I found. I hadn't even noticed for a while. My friend Mary blew up the picture and said, "Holy shit." That's the first pictures. The second set are my friend and I were out driving down dirt roads looking at tree color. It was fall, and we'd had a bad storm, so I didn't think there would be much. We saw a tree with roots sideways 30 feet from the ground. There's absolutely no way that was weather or people who did this. So I took a picture. Those are the next pictures. What I didn't see was something moved. She said, "Crap, drive." So I did. I was terrified. About 2 years ago, my friend Dana and I were talking about one I saw a few years ago. She said she's never seen one, and she'd believe if she saw one. It's a little awkward, couple things in here, no big deal. Well, a week later, last fall, last day of whitetail buck, I took Dana to work. The person she usually rode with was on vacation, and I'm retired 59. And as soon as we turned from the main road onto Peters Road, there was a huge sabe zipping over the hill to the left. He looked like he'd been shot in the butt by the way it walked. She was totally beside herself, saying, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And I said, "Yes, it wasn't no bear." She said, "Way too big." I said, "It wasn't a man." "Oh, hell no, too big and no clothes." I said, "Then what is it?" She screamed, "Oh my shit, that was a Bigfoot." She went to work. She doesn't talk about it much except with me. She did give me Mary, the PA research person, that is the rep of the group. The next day there were men with big automatics all over, 4 in cars by the road and 2 walking right where we saw it. 2 walking across the ridge, really strange. Wonder who those dudes were. 2015, September 25th, we had a bad hailstorm, frost, and it was really cold. As kids, we lived on Hecker Road. My brother asked me to drop him off at the old neighbor's house. He partied with them and left his van because he didn't want to drive home. I took him. As I was coming back at the end of the road, there's a huge row of pines. I was driving a dark red Lincoln Aviator, so most animals and even some people might not see the vehicle. Anyway, as I went to pull out onto the main 2-lane from the dirt road, I saw something move. There's a few cars that went by, and I didn't want to pull out. Another truck was coming. It was slowing down. What I thought was a black bear, they're all over here, was across the road about 50 yards from my truck. The blue truck got close to the thought bear and took off like a rocket. For a second, I was, shit, it's just a bear. 2 seconds later, it stepped past the road sign, just maybe a foot shorter, grabbed the telephone pole, and stepped over the ditch to the middle of the road and looked dead at me. I was petrified. It was huge, wide, swinging its arms. It was a female. Its top side looked like it must have had a little one somewhere still feeding. I'll never, ever forget that face. I took off so fast, I thought I was going to blow up my engine. I kept looking behind me to see if it was following, and thank God it wasn't. I'm scared of nothing. I've been through a lot in my life. There's not much that scares me, but they do. And this area is full of them. Ohio border isn't far. French Creek is big. It runs through this area. It's very rural. I hope I never see them again. If I get that feeling, I get out of there. I still fish and turkey hunt, but in the back of my mind, I'm always worried I'll see another one. These people who bang on trees and scream at them will never see one. Do they really think that those people who hunt and live in the wild will not know the difference between their buddy and some human making noise? Thank you for reading this. Thank you for all the people you listen to. It's a huge weight off the shoulders to talk like-minded country people who understand things. You're a fantastic help to many, many people. Keep up the good fight. Deborah, Shell, Northwest Pennsylvania. And there's some photos. They're all at the bottom here. And there's something in the photo, no doubt. Yikes. Whoa. Okay, that's an odd place for a tree to be, right? Pretty odd. Pretty odd. There's the sign, the telephone pole, the road. There you go. Take from what you will or leave it. I don't know if you're into it. I mean, you still go in the woods and you hunt and fish, and I absolutely appreciate you sending that email and those photos. But if you ever feel like it one day, maybe possibly, just for the hell of it, take somebody and go back to where that black being was in the edge of the timber there and put somebody there and take a photo of them. That would really help people gauge just how big that thing was, that being, whatever it was you caught in your picture, how big it really was. I wonder who the people with the guns were. I wonder why there's so many of these sightings around that particular area. I wonder, right? So many wonders. There you go. There's another person. Another honest person coming forward. And appreciate the kind words you said as well. And if you've had anything, this is a little older. Hold on a second. This email's been waiting a bit to be shared. So I hope you're still here. Apologize it took so long, but there's not much I can do about it. I'm just saving these photos right now so I don't forget to put them in the video. I'll turn the camera off while I'm doing this. It's going to be a few minutes. Alright, here's another one. No title. Mark this as red. These mosquitoes are driving me freaking crazy. Hi Steve, love your channel. My name is Basil Irvin. I'm 62, a retired dairy farmer from central Michigan. But my passion has always been hunting. I'm finally getting around to writing this email. Back in the fall of 1980, me and a girlfriend went shining for deer north of our farm about 11 o'clock, about 3 miles north of our farm. We turned a curve in the road and I turned the spotlight on, and on my side of the road, about 150 to 200 yards out in the alfalfa hayfield, was a man, or Bigfoot, not sure, was walking, swinging its arms. Walking up a small hill in the field. It was all the same dark color from head to toe. I don't remember if there was any eye shine. It turned its upper body and looked at us and never varied its walk. When my girlfriend seen it, she screamed to get the hell out of here. And I did, totally forgetting to look with my 10 by 50 binoculars until I got down the road a ways. By then it was too late. I'm leaning for it to be a Bigfoot because if it was a man, it most likely would have had a flashlight and probably would have waved or something. I know I would have. I just read a comment from another channel, and through text message, he said he was bow hunting around the same year. He saw a Bigfoot while in the stand just down the road, 1.5 miles near Town Line Lake, south from where I seen it. Town Line, that was one word. There's a couple typos. You know what, you guys? I read these for the first time with you guys, all right? Just down the road, 1.5 miles near Town Line Lake, south from where I'd seen it. But that's not what I'm emailing you about. Back in December 22nd, 2016, I had a trail camera mounted to my round bales barn to take pictures of deer and damn turkeys eating out of my 9-foot by 200-foot bag of high moisture corn that I used to feed my cows. Every winter when it snowed a few inches of snow, it turned into a freeway of deer and turkeys coming out of the swamp to feed on my corn. It's bad enough they eat it out of the field, but in my bag. Anyway, I get pictures of the bucks plus shed antlers of bucks that made it through the deer season. Anyway, on January 3rd, 2017, I broke my leg and ankle. Ouch. And tore tendons. Damn. And dislocated my ankle. Tell you what, you farmers really do yourselves in a lot, don't you? Sarah's, oh man. Mosquito between my glasses and my eyeball. Sorry. I broke my leg and ankle and tore my tendons and dislocated my ankle, so I had to hire a young man that I trusted to do all my chores until I could sell the cows. Fast forward 6 months. My wife went down to the barn to get a chip out of the camera and put it in the computer at home. She yelled at me and said, "You might want to see this." There were 7 pictures of a UFO and smaller objects and a red orb. I contacted MUFON UFO Network of Michigan, and I sent them copies of the pictures a few weeks later. And a few weeks later, they texted me and said that the pictures wasn't of any known craft that they have ever seen. So please share the pictures, Steve, to all the viewers. I started showing the pictures around, and one farmer friend of mine told me of his UFO sighting a couple years earlier, and his brother's also seen one very close to their farm. Then it shot off within a second. It was a small spot in the sky. One teacher told me he saw one going to school in the morning. It was stationary. He just started teaching and was late, so he didn't stop. He said it was huge, about the length of a football field, and talked to the farmer where it happened, but he just laughed. Until the next summer, he has a big chunk of ground in the field where the UFO was hovering that won't grow any soybeans or even weeds. He contacted the MSU University to come out and take soil samples, and Roger said that they were friendly until they got done when he asked them if they had ever taken samples from UFO landing sites, and he said they didn't say a word and threw the tools in the van and sped out of there. Isn't it funny how much you can learn and find out if you just ask? Stay safe, Steve. Keep up the fight, and if you want to come down and turkey hunt, just let me know. And no pictures. I got a name, though. Let's hope I can find this email and the photos in the email. Now, did I just save that in the right place? Hold on a second. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Go back down to the bottom here. I still got to go back and put the paint on my hull. Touch up bottom paint on my hull. All right, who's next? This is titled My Encounter with the Dogman. Hello, everyone. My name is Blaine Garrison. I'm from a small town in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, specifically east central Mississippi, where there's many creeks, lakes, and swamps. I was hunting for white-tailed deer. Down here in Mississippi is too thick to hunt like you do, Steve. I hunt from a shoot house, elevated 8 feet off the ground, so it wouldn't float away in case it were to flood. I'd woken up at 4:30. Doesn't get light until 6:45. Drive 10 minutes to pick up my dad. We're going to hunt a piece of property that is split by a creek. It's great for fishing. We're both hunting a huge 180-inch buck we named Scar. Wow, that's a hammer for down there. My dad was using a single-shot .45-70, and I was using a Winchester 742 Woodsmaster in .308 Win Mag. It holds 4 shots, 1 in the chamber. We always carry more ammo, just in case, not for these things. We were walking into our stands and whispering about Scar, the 180-inch buck. When we walked into our stand, we don't use flashlights unless we absolutely have to. We came to the split in the trail that went to our stands. We both said good luck and walked off. We'd been in the stand for an hour, and it was just about shooting light, and I saw a deer walk out into one of my lanes. I have 3, 1 on each side. It wasn't quite light enough to tell which deer it was. I picked up my gun and looked at the deer in my lane, but it didn't help much, so I sat my gun back down and kept looking at my lanes. Then I heard an extremely loud howl. It sounded similar to a wolf, but it definitely wasn't a wolf. The deer in the lane just picked up its head, looked in the direction the howl came from. I texted my dad and asked him if he had seen anything, and he said he hadn't seen a dang thing. I texted back, I have one in my lane, and heard a howl. He said, all right, and get off your phone. It had been 15 minutes since the howl, and it was 3 minutes from shooting light. So I picked up my gun again. I put it on the deer. When I heard another howl that just about ruptured my eardrums. The deer in my lane ran across the lane but didn't go into the thick briars and oaks. And this huge black creature with a dog-looking head and a very human-like body except its feet and its hands. Except its feet and its hands. Its feet were more like paws than human feet. It had long fingers and arms that went to its knees. It had come out onto the lane to my right, and the one deer that... Sorry, you guys. It had come out onto the lane to my right. The one deer was on. It ran right up to the deer before it could even move. It snapped the deer's neck and ripped its guts out and just started eating them. Then it stood up and looked right at me and stared into my soul, it felt like. I had a huge rush of adrenaline. I had my gun in my hand, aimed in the general direction of it, but didn't have it on the creature until it started growling at me. I then moved my scope onto the creature and said to myself, it took one step, I was going to let the lead fly. And of course, it started walking to me, growling and snapping its jaws. So I put the crosshairs on its chest, and I mean his chest, and pulled the trigger. And it was like everything went in slow motion. I could see the impact of my .308 hitting his chest. He then started running towards me, and I shot him in both of his kneecaps, which is 3 of my 5 bullets in the gun. He then hit the ground and started wailing. And I might not be the best person on the planet, but I hate to see anything suffer except politicians, so I put it right between his... I put it right in between his bright red eyes and pulled the trigger, and he hit the dirt. I could see his brain scattered in the grass. My dad called me and said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "If you want to come over here and see this damn thing, then do it, but I'm not saying it over the phone." He said, "Well, you scared every animal on the hillside of this country, on the hillside of the country. I knew that it would take him 15 minutes to get to my stand, so I aimed at the deer that he had killed, and it was a little spike. I waited on my dad, but I had reloaded my gun, bit armor-piercing incendiary or silver tips. I had these for hogs. When my dad got there, he thought I had killed the big buck, but when he turned and looked around my blind, he about fell. He said, "How the hell did you kill that thing?" I didn't respond. And then he said, "We need to get rid of that thing." So we went and got our 4-wheelers to drag it off. We tied the winch around its arm because it was just about the only thing left intact. We drove to a bank on the side of the creek and threw that damn thing in the creek. I then asked my dad what he thought it was. He said something from the pits of hell. My dad said, it's very jumbled. Sorry, you guys. I'm just reading it as it's typed, okay? Gotta be patient. I'm trying to be patient. My dad said that his father killed them, as in many on this property. I asked why he hadn't told me, and if we should tell the game wardens or the cops, and he said, if I tell them about this, they will put you in the mental institution. We hopped in our 4-wheelers and drove my truck, and neither one of us would say a word on the way back. When we got back to my dad's house, my stepmom had made breakfast, and she said I was pale white. We ate the breakfast and went to his shed, and I asked him how many my grandfather killed, and he said he had killed 5 since he was alive. I asked him what he did to the bodies, and he said he burned them or threw them in the creek. It was the first time I've told anyone else besides my son. Since then, I've seen one more while driving to work 3 years later on the side of the highway. It chased me until I met another car, and it peeled off into the woods. It's been 1 year exactly since that incident. Thank you. I know this is long, but I need to tell someone besides my family. Holy shit! That's a holy shit email. And you know, if you're still watching this channel, if you're still here watching this channel, you know very well that that people are going to be screaming at their screens saying, "Where's the pictures?" Right? Where's the photographs? People are going to be wanting to see this one. Grandfather shot 5. Then you blew the shit out of one. Dumped it and killed it. threw it over a bank. I'm guessing there should be, I would imagine, scraps of that thing in there somewhere, right? I wonder what it would take to convince you to go back and take pictures of that carcass. Some of the stories that come in sound pretty frickin' crazy, don't they? But this lifetime's crazy. Do I know that absolutely happened? You guys just heard it for the first time alongside me. I haven't a frickin' clue. I don't know who this person is. That's one hell of a story. There's a lot of details in there that would, you have to be pretty frickin' creative and genius to make them up, to toss them in. You know, he zoomed in on that deer and said it was a spiked buck. Who would even think of putting that little detail in that story? Anyway. These bugs are driving me bonkers. I gotta go get some paint on that boat and then rip home. So, either this is gonna be it, or I'm gonna add some on once I get to the shop in a bit. We'll see what happens. I hope every single person that sends in their email is still here. That's pretty crazy. But I would imagine, you know, I was just down near where this person said they were. They said they were in mid-state east, and I was mid-state west in Alabama. And a friend of mine who's showing me this structure beside his pond, and I said, why don't you just leave your boat right here? He says, because it floods up past our head right here at times. I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding. Holy cow. So what I'm saying is, knowing that, you know it's probably happened to carcass. If this truly happened, you know it probably happened to carcass, right? Mississippi flooded up and took it away. But you never know. Anyway. Maybe I'll drive up the road a little bit farther, see if there's some elk over there to look at. I'll show you guys what I've been looking at while talking to you. And then I will get my button gear. There's one huge stump. Mega stump. The timber goes forever up that hill. I'll be back in a minute. All right, I moved. And I'm going to read one more. All the mosquitoes are just up the road looking for me over there. This is titled Not a Sasquatch, but I don't know what. Steve, sending this one back in. Let me know if there's another person I should reach out to about this. Since I emailed this in a long time ago, I told my wife of this experience and she didn't run away. 16 years of marriage, so I guess she's sticking around. I know that this experience is not the focus of your channel, but after a few non-Bigfoot stories shared, I feel the need to share mine. I love your channel. I know how much work it takes beyond reading the emails. Outdoor photography and video is not an easy thing. Carrying around the extra weight and adjusting the settings to the changing conditions every time you set up. Definitely want to say thanks for the effort you take. Appreciate that, man. Not going to do a lengthy backstory, except I was raised outdoors. Hiking, saltwater fishing, hunting, and I am an Eagle Scout. I'm envious that you made it a lifestyle and a career. This happened almost 20 years ago now in the panhandle of Florida. I've been working 12-hour night shifts for almost a year. I wasn't drunk or on anything else. I took my 67 Firebird convertible to an old car wash around 1:30 a.m. No other cars were there, and it was located on a main road, but being a medium-sized city, there wasn't much traffic at that time. I pulled the car into the vacuum machines, with the front facing the road and the rear towards the open-ended car washing bays. Took out the floor mats, started the loud machine, and started cleaning. Almost 3/4 of the way through it, I was bent over, half in and half out of the car, and I got an overwhelming feeling I was being watched. I leaned out of the car and stood up. I was not expecting what I saw. It's hard to describe, but I'll do my best. Behind me was one of the car wash bays. 3 of them connected together with cinder block walls between them. Typical style setup. hose in the side, no front or rear so you can drive through it. Around 20-foot ceilings. Top of the ceiling had a large light that illuminates the stalls and projects out about 10 feet on either end of the stalls. I've been using this car wash my whole life until I moved from the area. There was something there. Not standing, just there. I wouldn't describe it as floating, but it wasn't touching the ground. It seemed the shape is about 7 feet tall, and the bottom was about 2 feet off the ground. This will sound insane, but here it goes. It was like looking at someone's shadow. You could make out a head area, shoulders where the arms would be, and leg area. Proportioned like a tall human would be, but it was all shadow. No gaps where the armpits or center lines for legs. No gaps where the armpits or center lines for legs. A standing shadow, I guess I would call it. The main body shape was black with a little TV-like fuzz effect throughout it on older TVs. Around its full outline, I can only describe as static electricity. Not shooting out everywhere away from it, but arcing around it. Didn't believe it for a second. I noticed that everything else looked normal, so I wasn't having a heart attack or a seizure. I could see the fencing and the dumpsters back behind it. Was literally almost in the middle of the washing stall, but more to the front. It was around 20 yards away from me. I got no bad feelings from it. I didn't feel sick. Just like it was there observing me. The loud vacuum was still running and I couldn't hear anything coming from it, so I don't know if it made any noise. I acknowledge it in my mind with, okay, I see you. I'll get my things and leave. It never approached or moved. It was just there. I went around the car, grabbed my floor mat on the passenger side. Have no clue why. I should have just left. I rounded the front of my car with it still just there. I sat down, started the car, looked back, and it was gone. I drove off immediately. I don't expect anyone to understand. I just knew it wasn't there to harm me. I've had a few weird happenings in the woods, nothing crazy. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but possibly one encounter with one growling in the dark and things happening to my blinds and feeders on a property. I know I said no names earlier, but if you read this and anyone reaches out to you, feel free to put them in contact with my email. Thanks, Kevin. Holy shit, Kevin. That's pretty creepy. I don't know what that was. I haven't a clue. Somebody else here watching the channel, have you seen something like that? I know there's people that speak of the shadow people. A lot of people have mentioned the shadow people, right? Do I know anything about that? I don't know shit about that. And I got no problem sharing your email, man. Everything's linked together. It can't not be linked together because we're all here on this ball together, right? Or wherever we are. We're all here together. And everything's happening where we live, so that means it's all connected. Pretty creepy. Anyway, now I'm going to get moving. And I could just sit here and look across the valley all day long, as usual, and look for game, or whatever. Now I'm going to get moving, and I will get back home soon, get this loaded up, and I'll add some more to it if I have to. Or if I can, I mean, if I got time, I will. And if not, I'll be back tomorrow. I was literally gonna give up, and all of a sudden and I turned the cameras off, packed my stuff up. This fish jumped up out of the water twice in front of me. I'm like, what? I took one cast in and I caught him. Man, he's one of the oldest beat up steelhead I've ever seen in my life. Who knows how many times this guy's spawned out. Wow. Here you go, buddy. Crazy. Got him underwater. That was freaking awesome. Sort of. Poor old fish. I don't think I've ever had my hands on a steelhead that old and beat up in my life, but... Alright. I got a steelhead. I can go home now.
What?